Hey friends, I'm Ann. This is my channel where I talk about crafting all the things. I am a multi-craftual person. I mostly cross-stitch these days, but I also knit, crochet, and sew. I do quilting, bag making, all those kinds of fun things. And I usually will talk about at least some, if not all of those things here on this channel. Today is January the 19th. It is Martin Luther King Day and we are off of school. I am a school nurse, and so we did not have school today, so I thought I would record. My last video was my 2026 whip parade, and my whip parade showed all of my whips and what my plans were for my whip go board, which are all of my whips and a few new starts. My two called projects for January were New World Map and Octopus Garden, and I have finished both and fully finished both. The New World Map I started back in the 90s for my husband while we were dating, 94, 95-ish, somewhere around in there. Last time I had finished the cross stitching, but still needed to finish the back stitching. And so I have done that, and I framed it, and here it is. Sorry for the glare, but I have it in this gold frame that I got off of Amazon. I pinned it with sequins pins and laced the back, and then I have also fully finished the back with some cardstock and washi tape, and have given that to my husband, who has it up in his office. So there it is. Very happy to have that done. Last time I said it took me 30 years to stitch it for him, that I hoped it wouldn't take me 30 years to frame it, and it didn't. So I just got that frame off of Amazon and pinned it on some foam core board with sequin pins, then laced it and took most of the pins out and put it in the frame. So I'm very happy with how that came out and that it's done. So that is amazing. And then the second call for January's Whip Go. First about this, sorry, it was a kit, and so I used the kit Ada and Floss to do that project. The second call was Octopus Garden by Blackbird Designs. I started this at the Barefoot Needlearts October retreat on October the 3rd, and I stitched it on 32 count Vapors by Rogue Fabrics and used all of the called for fancy floss and DMC, except two of the DMC were out of stock, and so I subbed those in. I finished stitching this on the 13th of January, and I framed it this morning, and this is how it turned out. I'm very happy with how it came out. I love the colors. I love the variegation of the floss. It made stitching it one stitch at a time instead of a row of X's, one leg at a time. It made stitching each X individually completely worth it. And right here I changed the 1969, which is when that song came out, to 1968, because that was the year my husband was born, and he loves octopi, and so this is kind of for him as well. But it is done, and again, I just got this frame. It's a 7x8 frame off of Amazon, and I have it fully finished and ready to hang. So I'm excited that that is done. Happy that my two Whip Go calls for January were finishes and fully finishes. So that's a good start for me for the beginning of this 2026. So a whip that I worked on lives in this Teresa Kogut, lives in this TigerLily project keeper, and it is a Teresa Kogut pattern called Remember Me. And this came out at market a couple of years ago, 2022, and I started it, I've got my notes down here. I started it in April of 2023 and have kind of decided that I want this to be a focus piece for this year, to possibly be a finish by the end of the year. I have done around 1,100 stitches since you last saw it. I will put a picture up here of where it was when you last saw it. And I have done, like I said, 1,100-ish stitches on this. And here we are. Most of the stitches that I did were in this center section here. I did this fence. I finished out the houses and the windows and the door. The windows are all filled in, and the background part of the house, the Argyle house, is completed, and now I just need to go in with the accent color and fill in the house with all of that. Very happy with how that's looking. Excited to get that completed. I am using 40 count Mallow and all of the called for flosses. There's just a couple of fancy flosses and the rest are DMC, but whatever was called for is what I am using. And that is at 55.6% done. So that is good. And currently now that is my oldest whip now that I finished the New World map. And that's the only whip that I had last time that I worked on. I have 2 new starts, 2 finishes, 2 starts, right? My first new start is in this project keeper that I made. It has a magnetic closure. I followed Elizabeth Ann Stitch's tutorial for making this, and it has a fabric pocket side and a vinyl pocket, zipper pocket side. And this is the Pretty in Pinks sampler, which I'll put a picture up of, by my sister's sampler, and it is TigerLily, Carrie TigerLily's big birthday sal chart. And they offered it as a PDF, which is great for me because I stitch in markup. And I got started on it on January 14th. I am using a 36 count Millennial fabric in the colorway Sparrow. And I am using the pattern calls for Gloriana silks, which I don't have. So I used the DMC suggestions, except for 2 that I didn't have, and I switched those out for close colors in my stash. But I got this started, and I went ahead and did part of the line border all the way across the top and down the side. So you see here, that's the width of the project and the height of the project. And then I got started on these little flowers on the border. This section here is over 1, which, 36 count over 1, that's teeny tiny. But I got that section done, and then there's one other section on the other side that is over 1, and that's the most, I think, the only over 1 part in the whole chart. But I'm loving this fabric with the flosses, and am excited to get this going. I have never done a sampler like this. Teresa Kogut's Remember Me is my closest thing. This is more of an antique reproduction, and I've never done one of those, so I am excited to get some more progress on that. And I'm loving this Millennial fabric Sparrow. So I started that on the 14th, and it is at 5.76% completed. So that is Pretty in Pink's sampler. If you're interested in joining that sal, go check out Carrie TigerLily and her last podcast, or last FlossTube, where she talks about the stitch along. The next project I have worked on is also a new start. And I figured, I'm not a huge patriotic stitcher just because it's not really my decor. But because this is the 250th birthday of the United States, I sort of wanted to have one patriotic piece on the go. And I have the Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. I have a subscription to that. And so I went and pulled those, looked through some back issues, and I had the, in the summer of 2020, there was a Barbara Anna pattern called Patriotic ABC. This is what it will look like when it's finished. And I just went through my stash and grabbed stuff and kitted it up. I am using a 32 count Picture This Plus in this colorway Stormy. It's a 32 count Lugana, and I'm using the called for DMC, except I changed out the red because the called for was too orangey for my thoughts of what patriotic red should be. So I started this yesterday. It is in a bag that I made and I sort of picked this because it's red, white, and blue, but it's more of a picnic bag. And this was a stitch that I did in 1994, Seasons of the Heart. And I made it into a project bag. Here's my floss and fabric. And the red that they called for was just 2 numbers away from this copper orange. And it just was too orangey for me, so I pulled 304 to use as the red. And I got started last night, and this is where I am. Got started on the eagle, finished his head and the lighter colored quilt stars in his body, and on his started outlining the upper wing here and getting that going. So I am excited to have that on the go. I love Barbara Anna designs, but I don't think I've never stitched one. So I'm excited to have that going and it as my patriotic piece. So that is my next newest WIP. I didn't really work on any other projects. I did watch a bunch of FlossTubes, and I thought I'd list who I watched. The Clover Stitchers are Alexis and Jen, and they are a new FlossTube duo. They are my friends that I go to retreats with, and they have 1 episode out, and go check them out. I watched them recently. Susan at Criminally Creative has a couple podcasts out since I recorded last. She's got her WIP parade and her updates. Love watching her and seeing all the things that she's up to. I've also watched the Tattooed Stitcher, the Sweetwater Stitcher, Sully Stitches, Potty Mouth Stitcher, Unfinished Stitches, and Sewing Room Secrets was a new one to me that I watched. She is British, love, or maybe Irish, love her accent. So while I was watching the Sully Stitches FlossTube, she mentioned the Stitch the Olympics event that's hosted by the Naptime Stitcher, and she has on her Instagram a page that gives prompts for each day of the Olympics. For example, on the 6th of February, it's opening ceremonies, and it's to start something new or stitch something that you started in 2026. The categories are pretty broad, so you could find something probably in your whip stash of things that could fit the categories. Like one is for the 11th is stitch something you were encouraged to stitch by a friend or social media. Well, for me, that's the Pretty in Pink sampler, because TigerLily influenced me to start that. So if you are interested, I will put a link to that that event in my show notes down below in the description box, where you can also find me on the internet. I am EAnnRN on Instagram and Ravelry. I'm also a knitter. I did work on some socks. I could grab those maybe, but not really much. I'm much more into cross stitch these days, but these cubes behind me are full of yarn, so I'm definitely still a knitter. But yeah, if you're interested in stitching the Winter Olympics, that's a good prompt idea to help you figure out what to stitch on. So yeah, this is just a kind of quick and dirty little update for what I've been up to the past couple of weeks. This past weekend was the Stitch and Thrift retreat in Lexington, South Carolina that I was going to attend. However, it fell on the weekend that was my father's 80th birthday party. Or it was his 80th birthday, and we threw him a party at my house, and so I ended up not going to that retreat, which I missed, but it was fun to hang out with family, and your dad only turns 80 once, right? Right. So I did not get to go to that retreat. My next retreat is coming up in a couple of weekends. It is the Barefoot Needlearts retreat at the beach, and I am very excited to go to that with my friends Alexis and Jen and Sarah and Anna and Beth, and just to see all of my buddies that I love stitching with. So that is my next retreat. I've been doing a good bit of sewing for that. Amy, in memory of Barefoot Needlearts, asked me to do needle books for all of the attendees, so I have finished and sent those off to her, and then I also have a couple of raffle prizes that I'm sewing in the form of keepers and project bags. So I've been doing a lot of sewing for that as well. I finished a quilt for a friend, and I'll put a picture up of it here. It is a flannel topped quilt, basically pieced and basically quilted, nothing fancy, but I did finish that for her. So that is pretty much what I have been up to in the past couple of weeks. New numbers for Whip Go come out in another week or so, and I'm excited to see what is pulled next. In the meantime, before that, I will work on whatever strikes my fancy. Probably pick Pretty in Pink's sampler will be calling my name, and this new Patriotic stitch that I started, because it's new and ooh shiny, has probably gonna get a little bit more work. And then also my Teresa Kogut Remember Me, because I would like to get that done this year. Might get some extra work as well. So that is where we are. We go back to school tomorrow. It's quite cold here in South Carolina where I live. We had the potential to get snow yesterday and this morning, but we didn't get any. My daughter, who is getting her doctorate at Chapel Hill University in North Carolina, sent me a video of it snow flurrying at her apartment last night, but we did not end up getting anything. There was frost all over the ground this morning, but no snow. It's looking like possibly next weekend we might get something, but you never can tell in the South. It's one of those things. You get what you get, and most people do pitch a fit, even though you're not supposed to. All right, well guys, I will leave you with a picture of my two finishes again. Glare. These are they, and I'm very happy with them and how they turned out, and that I was able to get frames off of Amazon that worked perfectly for them. All right, guys, well, I hope that you have a great few weeks coming up. I hope to be back in a couple of weeks, probably after the Barefoot Needle Art Retreat, and give a recap of that and what I got up to there. If you're going to be there, let me know. Feel free to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you've been working on or what retreats you've got coming up. I would love to hear about them. And if you're going to stitch the Olympics, let me know what kind of projects you're going to be working on. I hope that you all have a good couple of weeks and that you take time to craft all the things.